Everybody, what is going on? It's Bill with Franklin Loan Center, and yesterday we saw a report from National Association of Realtors, NAR, and they are predicting 4% real appreciation in real estate, right? And it's kind of like, so 4%. I mean, you're seeing what are the alternatives to get a 4% return on your money? You can put money in the stocks. I think if you look at the S&P over 70 years or whatever the heck it's been, it's returned on average 7%. For goodness sake, all the cryptos and all that stuff, it's just crazy, right? So 4% seems like, who would be interested in that, right? Well, are you thinking about the numbers, right? Becomes the question in my mind, right? So a 4% return would be an actual 4% return to you if you paid all cash for the house, right? Now, but almost nobody does, right? In fact, a lot of people just pay, like whatever, maybe they pay 10% down, right? So let's say someone buys an $800,000 house, put 10% down, the $800,000 house goes up by 4%, that's $32,000 on an $80,000 investment. You're looking at that somewhere around a 40% return on your money, right? So it looks better, right? Look, I'm not ignoring the fact that if to try to actually capture that in the first year, you'd have to pay commissions, you'd actually lose money. Yes, there's a payment on the mortgage. Like I'm not blind to this stuff, right? And so I like I've always said, real estate is a longer term investment for everybody. And that's really the way it works. Because if you think you're gonna make 40% on your money the first year, you're out of your mind, right? But if you start rolling 4%, 4%, 4%, which by the way, like historical norms for particularly California, but then the numbers aren't too far off nationally, are in that 4.5% range, for like historically speaking, right? So 4%, a little off from the average, but when you start to think about those on leveraged returns, it's really good, right? And then, on investment property, you're not gonna get away in most cases with 10% down, but even with a 20% down return, if you do, if you put $160,000 down on the same $800,000 house and you got a $30,000 return the first year, that ain't too bad, right? And then you keep doing that, and if the cash flows work, all of that stuff, that's why real estate works, right? Real estate works because of leverage and things like that. And it's just so frustrating when I see people talking about, 4% return's terrible. It's not, right? You just gotta, you need to compound it for at least a handful of years before it's gonna make sense. Anybody that's ever sat down and talked to me about real estate knows that I think it's a minimum of a 3 to 5 year, well, it's either a flip, so it's a really short term, or it's, a 3 to 5 year, anything under that is, it to me seems way too risky. So just make sure you're thinking about the numbers right. A 4% return on a 4% increase in your real estate assets looks a heck of a lot better when you really compare it to the actual cash you have in the deal. So just wanted to point that out today. It just struck me yesterday when I saw these numbers come out of NAR, and I just know I've had that conversation so many times. So that's all I got today. I'm Bill. I'm with Franklin Loan Center, and I'll see y'all next week.